Welcome back to Artificial Evidence, where the algorithm knows, and the truth is always stranger than fiction. I'm Owen Carver, and today we're stepping into the haunting world of the Louisiana Bayou in the summer of 1957. This story is one of beauty and darkness, ambition and superstition, set in the humid embrace of St. Evangeline Parish. The Bayou has always been a place of mystery, its cypress groves cloaked in shadows, its waters hiding more than just gators. But for the people of this small, devout community, the events of that summer were something else entirely, something they could never forget. It all started with the disappearance of Marie Dupré, a young teacher whose life seemed full of promise, only to end in tragedy. What followed was a story of eerie discoveries, whispered secrets, and a descent into a nightmare where folklore met terrifying reality. It began when Marie vanished one evening, her basket of wildflowers left overturned by the water's edge, when her body was found 2 days later on a small, isolated island, bound and surrounded by strange carvings. The town was thrown into disarray. Who or what was behind such a horrifying scene? And what did the symbols mean? As the investigation unfolded, the threads led to Reverend Silas Beauregard, a man of faith whose actions revealed a much darker truth. The swamp may have hidden its secrets well, but as the story unfolds, we'll uncover the strange twists and chilling revelations that transformed St. Evangeline Parish forever. The townsfolk assumed she had fallen prey to the bayou itself. Perhaps she had been swept into the murky waters by an alligator, or lost her way in the dense undergrowth. Search parties combed the area, their flashlights cutting through the swampy darkness, but there was no sign of her. That was until 2 days later, when a fisherman named Claude Robichaud pulled his boat up to a small island and made a grisly discovery. There, tied to a tree, was Marie's lifeless body, her wrists bound with swamp vines and strange symbols carved into the bark around her. The sheriff, a man named Amos Landry, arrived on the scene quickly, but what he saw there shook even his seasoned demeanor. The symbols around the body were not random. They were precise, deliberate, and unmistakably occult. At the base of the tree, a crude circle of animal bones had been arranged, and in the middle of the circle, a single black candle had burned itself out. Word spread fast, as it always does in small towns. Marie's murder wasn't just a crime, it was a dark, unspoken confirmation of what some had long suspected about the bayou. There were things out there that could not be explained by reason alone. Some whispered about old Creole curses, others about secret rituals passed down through generations. The oldest among them spoke in hushed tones of the rougarou, the legendary swamp creature said to punish sinners. But it was Sheriff Landry's duty to focus on people, not folklore, and so he began his investigation. Suspicion immediately fell on a recluse named Jacques Leblanc. Jacques was a weathered man in his 60s who lived deep in the bayou, far from the town's judgmental eyes. He was known to dabble in herbs and tinctures, a healer to some but a conjurer to others. Jacques had long been accused of witchcraft, though no one could ever prove anything beyond his eccentricities. But when deputies searched his shack, they found something chilling, a journal filled with sketches of the very same symbols found at the crime scene. Jacques was brought in for questioning, his frail frame seated under the harsh glare of the station's single lamp. He denied any involvement, claiming the symbols in his journal were merely part of his study of the old ways, not instructions for murder. But then came the twist. As Jacques was being questioned, another body was found. This time, it was that of Claude Robichaud, the fisherman who had discovered Marie. Claude's body was found in the exact same manner as hers, bound, surrounded by symbols, and left beneath a tree. This development threw the case into chaos. If Jacques was in custody, how could he have committed this second murder? And then came the third victim, a teenage boy who had been out frog gigging and failed to come home. His body was discovered by his father, his small boat drifting aimlessly through the fog with his lifeless form slumped against the side. The sheriff knew he was dealing with something beyond his understanding. Desperate, he turned to the state police for help, and they sent a detective named Evelyn Carter, a no-nonsense investigator from Baton Rouge. Evelyn approached the case with a skepticism that clashed with the local superstitions, but even she couldn't ignore the peculiarities of the murders. The symbols, she discovered, were a mix of ancient runes and Afro-Caribbean voodoo markings, suggesting a knowledge of multiple esoteric traditions. Evelyn also uncovered a connection between the victims that no one had seen before. Marie, Claude, and the boy's family all attended the same small church, where the pastor, Reverend Gideon Thibodeau, preached fire and brimstone sermons about the dangers of straying from God's path. Gideon was a polarizing figure in St. Evangeline, his fervent proclamations as much a draw as they were a deterrent. His sermons frequently warned of an ancient evil lurking in the Bayou, a force that preyed on those who dared to question the moral order. When Evelyn questioned Gideon, his answers were evasive. He claimed the deaths were the work of Satan himself, a punishment for the sins of the community. But when Evelyn reviewed church records, she found something troubling. Gideon had a history of taking troubled parishioners into the Bayou for what he called cleansing rituals. Many of those people had since left the town under mysterious circumstances, and a few had never been seen again. In the end, the truth was more horrifying than any folklore. The Reverend, it turned out, had been conducting his own rituals, not to expel evil, but to summon it. He believed he could control the darkness, that it would grant him power and ensure his congregation's loyalty. When the murders began, it was clear his control had slipped, and the force he had summoned was exacting its own toll. Reverend Thibodeau was arrested, but the killings stopped only after his church was burned to the ground by an unknown arsonist. To this day, the bayou around St. Evangeline Parish is said to be haunted, and the few who venture there speak of ghostly figures and eerie whispers in the fog. The case remains a chilling reminder of what can happen when superstition and power collide. Thank you for joining me for this harrowing journey into the shadows. Stay safe, and remember, the algorithm knows.